Even for top recruits, I've seen really, really good players that probably were, top 10, top 20 in their class.
Wow.
I mean, you've seen guys tank because of body language or incidents that have happened, how they've interacted with their coaches.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Talk at Elevation. I'm your host, Michaela Nagel, and today joining us again is Ben Potts, player development coach and video coach for the Denver Nuggets. Thanks, Ben, for being on the show once again.
I appreciate you guys having me back.
Absolutely. So this segment, we're going to talk a lot about high school athletes and what they can do to develop their skills, especially looking at videos a lot of the time. So if a high school player is sitting in their bedroom watching their own game tape by themselves, what is the single most important question they should ask themselves every time they pause a clip?
Yeah, I think that's a broad question in the realm of, what are they really looking at, right? And if they're personally looking at their film, I think the first question you need to evaluate in any given situation is, in this game, was I coachable, right? I think at the high school level, as you transition into college, and what the scouts are looking for, what college coaches are looking for, and obviously to play, what your high school coach is looking for. Am I coachable? If I come out of a timeout and a coach draws a play up, did I execute my part of that play? Was I communicating to my teammates? That's the first thing, I think, really the most important thing you really need to look at when you're watching your own film.
Mm-hmm. Why is it so important for, especially at that age, to be coachable so you can move forward?
Yeah, for college coaches, the first thing they're going to look for is, can I coach this kid, right? And if you're complaining to your high school coach, if you're whining, if you're not listening, you're not going to, they're not going to want to recruit you.
Right.
So it's really important to, one, be positive, right? But also be as coachable as you possibly can. Make sure you're asking questions to your high school coach if you don't understand, what he's trying to do, and just go out there and do what you can to help your team within that system.
For sure. So high school players often feel like they can't compete if they aren't the tallest or fastest guy on the court. So how can a player study their film and use the IQ to help them in their game?
Yeah, I'm not trying to be corny here or anything, but that old saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, right? And I've seen it. I've seen it happen.
Yep.
The matter of fact, I think when you're studying film, the most important thing you're trying to analyze is, especially when you're scouting out an opponent, would be one, player strengths and weaknesses, right? So how can we expose their weaknesses? How can we attack their weaknesses? And how do we stay away from letting them get what they want to get from their strengths? And on that note, it's important to analyze the actual system of what they're trying to run, right? Sets, actions, what does their offense look like? What does their defense look like? And in that situation, I think when you're able to analyze film that way and really break it down to those components as a player, let alone a coach, you're able to kind of find ways to create an advantage regardless of your talent, and find ways to get the best possible shots to try and stop them from getting the best possible shots they want. Obviously playing hard, right? Once you're playing hard, this guy doesn't box out. Okay, I'm going to crash every single time. I'm going to try and get the rebound.
Right.
It's important. I think that's a great way to help yourself win tough games against high-level talent.
A lot of kids make the mistake of just fast-forwarding to their plays and their shots and not looking at the full game in general. What's the difference between looking at the game and just yourself?
Yeah, well, from a college coaching perspective, a lot of high school players send in their highlights. And that's great. I'm not saying to stop doing that, but coaches are going to want to see the real game. They want to see who you are. What happens when he goes to the bench? Is he mad at his high school coach for taking him out for playing limited minutes, right? What does your body language look like on the bench? How are you helping your teammates? Are you a team leader? So I think it's really important to watch your entire minutes, right? Let alone watch a full game, because you never know when you're watching your game. It could be your own teammates, right? Okay, well, I just realized he's a fantastic cutter. I don't really play with him a lot. Right. Now I can kind of talk to him on the bench and say, slash through, right? That's important. How can I help affect winning? And I think analyzing the full game, and especially your minutes, right? If you can see, how am I affecting the game while I'm in? Obviously, watching it fully to see what you can do while you're out of the game, but how can I affect the game when I'm in? And it's not just, my shots, my rebounds, like what am I doing to help my team win? And a lot of that goes to, effort, right? Making the right reads, rebounding, crashing hard, playing defense, picking up half court, 94 feet, whatever, your coach is telling you to do.
Right.
And playing your role to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's really important to watch the full game film, but especially watching your full minutes.
Yeah. Have you seen that aha moment with some players that you've coached that kind of see finally their minutes and then they realize what they need to do differently?
I think yes,
Yeah.
in a way. I think at least at this level, at the NBA level, when you're professional, guys take it pretty seriously,
Right.
and they're really into their film as it is. But at the collegiate level, there are freshmen coming in. When I was at Alabama, we had a ton of guys that weren't really used to watching film. They had to kind of get used because, listen, our film sessions were long for a good reason. I mean, Nate, again, I said it last time, but he's phenomenal, and he's trying to break down every single component. But even within a 1-2 hour film session, you still need that individual film with your players. And as a freshman coming in, a lot of them haven't been exposed to that. So it has been an aha moment when you're able to at least break down their minutes for them and kind of watch it through with them and help them explain, all right, like this was the right read here, your footwork was bad here, right? This is what we can do better. You didn't get back on this play. Like why aren't you running back? You should be racing back every time. Like this is how you're going to earn more minutes, right? And those are the aha moments of like, all right, well, this is what I have to do to be on the court and to affect winning.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've talked about how watching the ball is a rookie mistake. For a high school guard who wants to raise their basketball IQ, what should they be looking on the weak side of the floor when they watch film?
Yeah, I've seen both sides. And if on a defensive end, I've seen really good on-ball defenders that fall asleep on the backside, right? Fall asleep on the weak side of the floor. And I think it's important to, train in a way where you're able to improve your help defense, being able to see ball and man. I think that's taught throughout high school, throughout college, and that's very true. You should be able to see ball and man. And listen, this is going to be basketball terms here, but if you're the low man, right? A lot of people call that the MIG, the most important guy. That's the guy that's supposed to have at least 1 foot in the paint, sometimes 2 feet in the paint, and really guide the defense, guide your opponent. Your teammates. Say, okay, there's a split coming over here, pick and roll coming, ball coming, switch or peel off, right? So being able to communicate, I think, is one thing that you're going to need as a help defender, and that's why it's so important. The help defenders on the weak side are sometimes more important than the ball handler defender. Right. Obviously, if the ball handler defender is really good, he's going to blow up screens. He's going to get into the handler. He's going to make him try and get off the ball. But a lot of the time, what we see happen is screening creates an advantage. That's why you see a lot of NBA teams, college teams constantly setting numerous screens within their actions. You're trying to create an advantage. So when that happens, right, you got to be able to communicate and react. So listen, you're going to get screened. At this point, okay, I got to call the switch out, or I got to call, I'll take yours, peel off to mine, right? So that's why I think in reference, a help defender is sometimes even more important, because it's guaranteed at some point in the game, they're going to create an advantage. What can you do to counter that advantage? So help side defense is weak side, whatever you want to call it, phenomenally important. But again, like I stated before, communication at that level as well is just as important, if not more important.
Yeah, absolutely. How can high school athletes, what advice would you give them to communicate better on the floor?
You just find the habits. I mean, I think it's really hard. You even see it in college. You see it in the league. Like people kind of tend to, as they get tired, to revert to less noise, right? They're not as talkative. You got to build a habit, and habits are sometimes hard to build and hard to change. Change is one of the hardest things you can do. So I would think always try and have that in the back of your mind to talk, even if it's just talking nonsense, gibberish, right? If you're just say ball, man, like obviously there's an over. You can overdo it. You can overdo it, but I'd rather you overdo it and build that habit than to underdo it, and now your teammate gets blown by and they get a wide open layup at the rim.
Right. Yeah. Before we move on, let's talk about something every serious athlete needs to pay attention to: your digital footprint. Fan-Day Nation has just released a powerful new tool to help athletes make sure their social media profiles are fully optimized and recruit ready. Today, coaches aren't just evaluating game film, they're evaluating character, leadership, and maturity online. This resource gives you a step-by-step roadmap to clean up your profiles, highlight your strengths, and avoid common mistakes that can cost opportunities. If playing at the next level is your goal, Don't leave your online presence to chance. Go check it out now at fandaynation.com. For sure. So can you explain more about why an NBA player watches their own tape and what are they looking at especially?
Yeah. I mean, I think I referenced it earlier. A lot of the time with our team especially, and around the league, you always pull your minutes for the players. You always upload the minutes. You send it straight to them. They're able to watch it.
Yeah.
Some of them still watch the full game, but I think the minutes are incredibly important because, again, you're not just watching your possessions, your rebounds, your points, your steals, your turn, whatever it is. You're watching everything that happened while you're on the floor. So it's really important for reference if you're a shooter, right? You're in the game to shoot the ball. You're in the game to try and knock down some threes. You're in the game to stretch the floor and try and pull those guys out so the paint opens up. Sometimes you don't make shots as a shooter. It just happens. You're human, right? You're not perfect. Obviously, guys like Steph Curry are as close to perfect as you possibly can get, right? But he still misses shots, right? So what can I do as a player when I'm not doing what I'm on the floor to do to affect winning? As a shooter, for instance, okay, I'm not making shots on the defensive end. Can I lock this guy up, right? Can I take their best player and shut him down, right? Can I rebound the ball? Can I get my team a couple more offensive possessions, right? Because second chance points are so valued at the collegiate and NBA level, as well as high school. They're higher point shots. So I think it's really important to really watch the entire game to see, what did I do or did not do to affect winning.
Right. When high school players are getting recruited, what do you think the number one thing college coaches are looking for?
Looking for or looking against?
Both.
Yeah, I mean, obviously talent is the first thing they're looking for. A lot of those coaches that are the top recruiters have a good eye. You always, you obviously always miss. There's some guys that you're just going to miss on. You're human again, right? You're going to make mistakes. There's guys that end up being extremely good that you weren't quite high on, or maybe quite high on for your system, right? Even if they are good. But the one thing they're going to look for is talent. Now the second thing they're going to look for is how hard does this guy play, right? That's incredibly important. And then, like I stated earlier, are they coachable? You could be the best player in the nation, but as soon as you get taken out of the game, you're bitching to your coach. You put a towel over your head. NBA scouts and college coaches hate that stuff, right? And body language is something maybe somebody can grow out of, right? Again, change is hard, and I believe that anybody can change, but you have to want to change. But I don't think most of the time that's what's going to sell college coaches, right? It's going to be probably push them away a little bit. It's going to push NBA scouts away a little bit. Attitude. How do you help your teammates? Are you a leader? Those are things that are highly valued. Obviously your skill set is one. So if you're a shooter, okay, every team can use a shooter, regardless of how athletic you are, regardless of what else you do. But what's really going to sell those coaches is, okay, what else can he do on the floor, right? He obviously shoots extremely well. Oh, he's a 3-and-D guy. Okay, so he can shoot it really well, and we can put him on our best players. Or he's shooting 45% from three, over the summer, and he's averaging 10 rebounds. Okay, like this guy plays hard. So what are the other things that you can do as a player to affect winning? And coaches are constantly looking for that at both the collegiate and NBA level.
Yeah. How hard is it for coaches just to go through and try to find the best possible players for their team?
It's extremely difficult, and I'll tell you what. I mean, we now are in a generation of NIL, and it's a wonderful thing for college sports. It's a wonderful thing for the athletes, but it also changes the game completely. It changes the way that teams have to operate, have to function, and have to recruit. You're recruiting your own players at this point, so you can go after the best players. There's a lot of things that have made it difficult to always get the best players. And even when you have the most money, that's not always what people are sold on now. Money talks, right?
Right.
But there's other things that you have to be able to contribute to the recruiting process that make that kid believe, listen, I'm your best bet at getting to where you want to go, which is the NBA, if that's what they want. And I would assume that most college kids have a dream of getting there. It's really hard at this point to, one, pinpoint the talent. That's probably the easy part. All right. Now you're recruiting the talent consistently over years. Yeah. all of a sudden, a big school comes in and offers 10 times the amount that you're able to offer. Now you might lose that kid, right? And you can't really fault them for that because it's life-changing money. So I don't think it's always recruiting the best players. It's about recruiting what is best for your system. How are these guys going to fit into my system? And it doesn't matter if you're a 0-star, a 3-star, a 4-star, a 5-star. I've seen plenty of 3-stars, plenty of no stars make the league and really develop, right? And I think that's one thing as a college coach you have to sell is I can develop you and get you where you want to go, right? This system is going to set you up the best for the NBA, and I can prove it. I have it proven with my analytics. I have it proven with my player development. It's all right here laid out in front of you, and your position is going to fit right here in this program, right? So it's always pinpointing, how you can help them. And at the NBA level, it is too. As a coach, you have to really connect with your players and help them understand that you have their best interest at heart and you want to help them get to where they want to be. And, maybe you're a rookie and you're trying to get a $25 million contract on your next contract, right? Maybe you're a vet and you are on a vet minimum, but you're trying to extend your tenure for 3-4 years in the league to try and get, a 3-year, $10-12 million contract, right? But you have to help them understand that, you have their best interest at heart. And I think that goes to show at both levels when it comes to college and the NBA.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, when a high school or college athlete is looking to go to the next level, how do they know that's the right fit for them?
Yeah, I think it's tough because, today's age, I think that coaches can recruit you for years, right? And you might be in that, again, second or third year of recruitment, and then another team slides in and shoot, it sounds better on paper, right?
Right.
So I think it's really important as a high school player to go on as many visits as you can, especially with the schools that you're highly interested in. And the things you have to understand and analyze in these situations are, okay, what does the roster look like? Okay, am I going to have the opportunity to really battle for a spot? And I would never tell a high school player not to go somewhere because you're worried about competition. That is the best possible situation that you can put yourself in because it's only going to help you grow, right? So don't ever back down from, all right, I'm a shooting guard and they already have 3 shooting guards on the roster. If it's the system for you, it's the system for you, and you're going to battle for those minutes, right? That's important. But then also, again, like I just said, the system, okay? This system is perfect for the way I want to play. All right, I'm a shooter, but I also am really good at getting into the paint. The way that these guys play is a high screening system. They're constantly moving, cutting, opening the floor. It's going to give me a lot of open shots, and I'm going to be able to space out and get into the paint on my drives. That's going to let me flourish on in my game. Right. That's important to look at with those type of things. And then also, what are the things that interest you or like resonate with you? And if you're a guy that does really well understanding the numbers, all right, well, maybe I'm going to a school that has a advanced analytical system where they really base their stuff on their analytics. If I'm a guy that, watches a lot of film or likes film, maybe I'm going to a school where, they got 4 former NBA guys on staff and they're constantly breaking down film for you, constantly analyzing the NBA, constantly analyzing college. They're going to have a solidified game plan every single time, hand in, hand out, that they're going to work their butts off for you. Yeah. It really just depends what you feel like you need to get to that next level, but also hearing what these coaches have to say and trying to see, 1, are they genuine? And 2, this is something that I feel is going to work out the best for me. And listen, it doesn't always work out. Right. I mean, that's why you have transfers. I'm one where I think, when the going gets tough, don't get going. If it gets difficult, try and push through it, right? Obviously, if things don't work out, you need to transfer. Your coach leaves, you need to transfer. I'm all for that. I think in today's era with NIL, and it's no fault to the kids, you see 4 to 5 transfers in 4 to 5 years. And, I think people are constantly being recruited under the table, and you're, being told you're going to get this opportunity, this money. And I'll tell you what, like, the grass is not always greener. So you got to understand that. I've seen kids make those jumps, and then they were projected late first round, second round pick, and then never worked out for them. And now they're, trying to figure out, can I even play pro? So the grass is not always greener. Really, when you make those difficult decisions, because you're going to have a lot of those in life, it's really important to analyze every single obstacle, every single pros and con of the change before you make those difficult decisions in life.
Yeah.
That's kind of my advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I get high school athletes just jump to wherever they can, especially if there's money involved, for sure. So let's switch gears to high school coaches.
Yeah.
High school coaches rarely get perfect scouting film on their next opponent. It's usually a shaky, wide angle parent video. What should a coach prioritize looking for when they have terrible, low quality footage?
Yeah, film is film, just like a basketball is a basketball, right?
Right.
Obviously, there's high definition, and that's great.
Yeah.
It might be a little bit harder on your eyes when it's not. But the fact of the matter is, you still are able to, 1, see those players. 2, see those sets that the coach is running. 3, see how fast they play, right? 4, see how good of a defensive team they are. So there's a lot of things you can analyze regardless of the film quality. But I think it's really important as a coach, 1, to first off, when you're prepping for an opponent, again, like I just said, what type of system do they run? Are they running a lot of zone? Are they running a lot of zone defensively? Because now I got to put in a lot of sets preparing for this game that are going to attack that zone. Offensively, like do they run like a 5-out offense? Do they run a motion offense? Are they 4-out, 1 in? Do they have 2 post players at a time, right? Those are things that you kind of have to understand so you can game plan properly for those next opponents. And on that note, you also need to see the players, okay? This guy's a 5-star recruit. He's going to Duke next year, okay? So he's going to get his, right? He's going to get his. What can we do to slow down his water a little bit and make sure that nobody else beats us, right? And then also on that note, can he beat us by himself? And if he can, how are we going to game plan around that to completely shut off his water, right? How are we going to make sure that he gets off the ball and make others beat us? So those are things that you are going to be able to analyze regardless of the film quality. And then again, like I said, attacking the defense. So if they have 2 bad defenders, you're watching the entire game, and this guy's getting blown by the entire time, back cut. He's not boxing out. Okay, well, while he's in, we're going to go after him every single time. I'm pulling him in every single pick and roll. Right. Whatever you can do, and it's obviously it's no fault to the kid, but that's what you got to do to win games, right?
Yeah.
So I think no matter what the film quality is, you just got to do whatever you can to try and break down that film to game plan properly. And it might not be showing everything to the players because it could be an overload, but you can still analyze that film regardless of the quality.
Absolutely, for sure. So if a high school coach has limited time to break down their own game tape, what are the top 2 or 3 non-box score metrics they should be counting on film to see their team if playing winning basketball?
Well, I would also reiterate, break down the film regardless. If you need to sacrifice a couple hours of sleep, whatever it is, break it down. Regarding metrics, the numbers only tell us a certain picture, right? And they don't paint the whole story. So you have to be really careful with that, because if I'm going about this film and going about these numbers as if, all right, well, this team turns the ball over 20 times a game, maybe I'm pressuring them more, but all of a sudden they just had a film session, right? And they understand that they've been turning the ball over a lot. And now the next practice, they're working on their ball movement, and you double team a kid, he hits the next guy to get a wide open layup at the rim consistently. So you got to be careful of just looking at the numbers, and also you have to understand the film. So I mean, I could tell you that there's a specific analytic that you're supposed to pay attention to. I would be lying to you, because I think you have to be able to have the eye test, and you have to be able to paint pictures with the numbers. The numbers can't completely make the game plan for you. That has to be something that you have to analyze and you have to work for to have a proper game plan to attack a team. For sure.
Are there coaches out there you've seen that don't really understand, they don't really have that film IQ and aren't really explaining themselves well to their players?
I mean, it definitely happens.
Yeah.
I think it's a part of growth, right? There's young coaches just starting off that maybe don't quite understand how they have to communicate with their team. And, on the flip side, it's hard to communicate with a single team the same way. I mean, everybody's different, right? So I think it's important, 1, to understand your players and how they learn. And then from there, finding a teaching method that's going to correlate with all of them. And even if that's, these guys are much better on the court, breaking it down, but he learns better from, watching film or, from being shown a game plan. Okay, so now I'm just going to take that extra time with this kid and help walk him through this so that he's on the same level as these guys that are better at the court experience, right? It happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I think, a coach should not be set back when they're not great at, communicating and video. But I think that, it's important to understand where you're at and have a realization and just do your best to get better, not only for your kids, but for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you work with elite professional basketball players who still take hard coaching on tape. High school players can sometimes get defensive or sensitive. How do you deliver tough film critiques to a kid in a way that builds them up rather than breaking them down?
Yeah. Obviously it's gotten seemingly more difficult over the years.
Right.
I did my master's program on transformational leadership. There's a lot of metrics of transformational leadership that I feel are very important. And one of them, leads from a sense of empathy. And I think it's really important to understand your kids, your players, whatever level you're at a basic level, and really try and build a relationship with all of them. Understand where they come from. What are the struggles they're going through currently? What does the home life look like? Because again, reiterating, you need to be able to have that relationship for you to hold somebody accountable, and understand, like having the kids understand that, you have their best interests at heart. I think that that's how you should coach. And obviously not every coach is like that. Not every coach thinks like that. And you don't have to. That's my personal, preference and belief. Every coach is different. Some guys are going to be more nitty gritty and hard on you. But I think it's a lot easier to be harder on a kid when you've built that relationship and they understand, this is for the best of you, right? I'm chewing into you because you need this right now. You need this, you need to hear this, and it's only going to help you in the end, right? But those relationships are so important, and just understanding them at the most minute level is probably the best thing I could, say for building up those relationships.
Yeah. Do you think it helps kids just listen to you more because you have that relationship with them?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I think it's, you're going to have a lot more trouble with a kid when you're just constantly breaking it down and yelling at him, and you haven't really built any type of relationship, compared to when you're, more like coming from a place of disappointment, like you can do better, right? Like this is unacceptable, and you built that relationship. You know what they're going through, and just having that ability to, have that sense of empathy, I think goes a long way for being able to coach somebody on a hard-nosed level.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're proud to celebrate women who lead on and off the court. Nico Stones welcomes new brand ambassador Sophie Ziddell, a standout basketball player at the University of Colorado. Her exclusive edits is all about confidence, strength, and the style that moves with you. Support women in sports and shop Sophie's limited collection now at nicostones.com.
So high school coaches often fall into the trap of holding grueling 45-minute film sessions where teenagers completely check out. So how long is the ideal film session for a high school team, and what should they actually do while they're running the projector?
5 hours. There's a lot to clean up.
Yeah.
But you don't have 5 hours, right?
Right.
So I think it's important, you got to nail down three main points that you really want to hammer away, because realistically you have about 15 to 20 minutes, maybe sometimes more if you got a really good group that's interested, for them to really lock in.
Right.
And obviously, after that 15 to 20, it's probably, don't quote me here on the statistical pattern, but it probably, goes down nonlinear pattern. So you have to really pinpoint those early points down. Now, regardless, it's going to be hard for you to probably show film in 15 to 20 minutes. So obviously, I think it's important for you to have your main points, 3, maximum 5 main points in those first 15 to 20 minutes, really hammer it away. And then for the stuff that you don't get to, or for the stuff where you start to see your guys zone out, have individual film sessions with these guys, right? And I think that's another thing that builds relationships, because when they see that you're taking taking your turn with them, and giving them that time, giving them an opportunity to learn with you, it builds a relationship. Again, it comes to the point of, I care about you, I want you to get better. We're gonna sit down and help you grow, and correct the mistakes, or even again positivity, showing what you did well. And that's also another way to probably extend it. You have to. I always would say at least finish with the positives. Always try and end on a positive note to try and build them up, build the energy. But I think it's important to pinpoint 3 to 5 points, 15, 20 minutes, and then hold individual film sessions with the guys you need to.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember high school classes. I could only pay attention so long. It's tough. So you've been in NBA circles for a long time. What is the fastest way a high school player gets completely crossed off an NBA scouts list based on their film, even if they are scoring 30 points a game?
Yeah, no, I think I referenced it earlier, body language. I think if you're a high-level talent, people are going to be interested in you no matter what. But if your personality sucks and you're treating people horribly, your teammates, your coaches, you're on the bench not being a good teammate, you got a towel over your head, you're slapping over waters, you're treating the trainers like dirt, the guys are going to cross you off pretty quickly. And even for top recruits, I've seen really, really good players that probably were top 10, top 20 in their class. Wow. I mean, you've seen guys tank because of body language or incidents that have happened, how they've interacted with their coaches. A couple in the last few years that were supposed to be top picks, right? So I think it's really important for you to be as positive as you possibly can, be a good team player, be coachable. Because to me, that's the one thing where you're crossed off pretty quickly. Yep. The second thing to that would be, does he play hard, right? If I'm scoring 30 points a game, but I don't want to play a lick of defense, I don't want to get back, and I'm just giving up all these transition points. Right. I'm getting blown by constantly. All right, well, we know you can score it, but at the collegiate level, are you going to be that guy? And maybe you will. Maybe you will be that guy that's scoring it, but are you a complete liability on the defensive end, right? Am I better with you in or with you out?
Right.
And if I'm better with you out, then why am I recruiting you? So to me, it's you're scoring 30 points a game. That's great. Good for you. Do you have 30 points, 10 assists? Do you have 30 points, 10 assists, 10 rebounds? Because that's phenomenal, right? Do you have 30 points, 10 assists, 10 rebounds, 5 steals, 2 blocks, whatever it is, right? So again, it goes back to my point of what can I do to affect winning? And it's great if you have 30 points, but if your team has 30 points and the other team has 60 points and you have all 30, you lost the game. You lost the game by a significant margin. So what can I do to affect winning regardless of how I'm scoring on the court? My shots aren't going in. Can I, make the right reads? Can I get off the ball? Can I rebound it? Can I lock up their best player? Can I communicate from the weak side, right? Sure. Those are the important things that are going to keep you in the loop with recruitment is, what can I do to affect winning? How hard do I play? And then my communication. If your communication skills are great, you work really hard, and you have multiple skill sets that affect winning, you're going to be a highly sought after recruit, regardless of your star.
For sure. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about Jokic and how he manipulates defenses on film like a chess grandmaster. What is one specific hidden trick or read that you've watched him use on tape that a high school point guard could literally steal and use in their own game?
Yeah, a former Alabama coach, now head coach at Arkansas State, used to say your eyes sell lies, and I think Nikola is one of the best people that does that. Being able to have no look passes, right? Having a sense of the floor, being able to see the floor without having to see the floor, and obviously I think that a lot of that is natural grown talent and kind of a sense inside of him, but it can be learned and it can be taught, and it's something that you can build on. Just having your sense of floor spacing, knowing when guys are going to cut, seeing when guys are going to cut, then turning your head and passing it to them, right? So your eyes sell lies, and I think that's phenomenal for him. I mean, he's one of the best passers in the league, if not the best passer. Again, I'll reiterate, I think he's the best player in the world.
Yes.
For a number of reasons. But as a point guard, one of the best things you're supposed to do is pass it, right? And obviously you got a lot of scoring guards nowadays, but as a point guard, the number one thing you got to do is control that floor, create for your teammates, whether that's for, you scoring or you passing it. You got to create. So your eyes sell lies is the best thing I think you could possibly do to train yourself to have a very useful skill at any level.
For sure. Well, we don't have a lot of time left, but I wanted to ask you about Summer League. How was it? What are you most looking forward to? What's going on?
Yeah. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
We had our draft picks play. Bryce and Trevin played this year, and KJ is one of our two-ways. I was with KJ at CU, and phenomenal kid. Works his tail off, and I'm really happy he's back in Denver. TB and Bryce were phenomenal in summer league. A lot of the guys that we brought in for summer league played really hard, had a great attitude the entire time, whether they were playing or not. And it was fun. It was fun the entire way through. And I think a lot of the time towards the end of summer league, sometimes you're dragging, and it's kind of hard to play those last couple games. But the entire time they had the right energy. They were positive. They were there for their teammates. They were having fun. We were 14, going to that last game 4 for us versus Portland. Had we won that game by 14, we're in the semifinals. So, it's tough, and it's hard to kind of lose those type of games and not hit our goals. But I think this is the first time in maybe it's 20 years. I don't know, maybe not 20 years, but in a very long time since the Nuggets have been 3-2 in summer league. So,
wow.
I think that's it's a good it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
JJ was phenomenal as head coach and brought great energy. Our staff brought great energy, and the great thing about summer league, I think, especially as a staff member, is it's a time frame in the NBA where a lot of the guys lower on the totem pole get to have more experience, get to have more of a say, get to run the defense, get to run the offense, get to coach a scrimmage. And I'm not going to brag. I won 2 challenges, so
there you go.
that was fun to do that, and I think it's just kind of an incredible experience. And obviously, I'm so grateful to have this position and to be in the spot I am, especially back home in Denver. Hoping not to leave anytime soon. I want to be here for a while.
Yes.
But it's just I'm so grateful to be able to experience opportunities like that.
For sure. What are you most looking forward to this upcoming season?
Another chance at a championship. I think whenever you got number 15, you always have a great chance. And we have we have Jamal, we have AG, we got a lot of guys that are incredible players. Jamal was an all-star this past year, right? I mean, AG has had so many seasons where he's had all-star caliber seasons, regardless of whether he's gotten it or not. So we have a really great team. I'm ready to see when we complete the roster, who we got. But guys are ready to work. They're hungry, and I'm ready for another shot at trying to go for a championship.
Absolutely, I think we're all ready. So we'll all be watching with you and be on the court with you too. So, well, thank you, Ben, so much for joining me again on the Talk Elevation, and good luck to you guys this season, and hopefully we'll have you back on the show again sometime soon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.